So when we talk about technology, when we talk about technologies that propel organizations, right? What are the key considerations for HR when evaluating technology?
My counter question is always, what is the problem that you are trying to solve? Now, what I find more often than not is HR has not been able to define their problem or their opportunity clearly enough. So when they come down to evaluating the technology, then they don't have a clear criteria. It's not, they get bogged down into talking about functionality and how cool an app looks or how much a manager may want to, use an interface. If you can solve a problem, and a problem that matters, we need to be able to quantify the problem, then we have already a way of evaluating technologies. Now, this also helps us get rid of a lot of the technologies that are in the marketplace. Anyone who has looked to buy tech lately, over the last 5 years, there is no shortage. There are thousands of technologies that are available for nearly every problem that we could imagine. But every single one manifests a little bit differently, the way that the solution works. If we understand our problem, if we are able to define it, then we'll know exactly what it is that we are looking for. And you can get rid of 80% of what's in the market just by defining your problem. So the key consideration for when you're starting the evaluation process is to forget the technology and think about the problem. Let me give you a little example of what I said to try and separate sort of problem and tech. I think it's still important, but online leave. A lot of SMEs and in the old days, multinationals move down the online leave process. In the old days, you take down your Word document, you type it up, you print it out, and you'd go and talk to your manager. Now, of course, in the old days, we thought about that, or you emailed it and emailed the form, or if they were remote. Now, if you think about that process, the most important part was not actually the form and the logging of it. The most important part of that was the conversation with the manager. But that's from the employee's point of view. From HR's point of view, the difficulty was making sure that those forms did not go astray. The making sure of to ensure that anyone who was given leave was appropriately recorded, so that we didn't have leave liabilities, skyrocketing when actually people were taking holidays. So the problem for an employee was not as apparent as it was was not the same as the problem for HR. The problem for HR was records. Keeping accurate, up-to-date records. And that linked to finance because leave is counted as a liability. So we need to understand exactly how much we have leave in the company. And this drives a lot of the policy. Some companies have, use it or lose it by the end of the 12 months. This is one of the reasons why. So the problem for HR and the business is very different than the problem for an employee. In fact, giving them an app may not solve a problem at all. It might if it was a remote, if they were remote, or if the manager had a very wide span of control and a very complex rostering system, so that it was not the one-on-one interaction between an employee and a manager to discuss a period of leave was not as important. But simply giving employees an app to apply for leave for many white-collar workers didn't solve any problems at all. Made it a little bit easier. But of course, the key for us was still a conversation with the manager. So it didn't matter whether you did it on an app or you did it on email or you did it on a Zoom. You'd still had to have that conversation. Of course, when it comes to selling the tech into the company, HR, what do we say? Oh, it's going to be so much easier for you. Look at this fabulous app. That's not what we needed at all. We needed to solve. So this is why I say be really clear on the problem. If we needed to make sure that the records were kept appropriately, we needed something that would be enough for them to use it. But we didn't want to, promise them the earth and think that it was going to solve their problems, because it actually did not solve employees' problems at all. Arguably, in some cases, it made it worse because it bifurcated the process from the conversation with the manager. Some leave systems include the two, but not all. So you can see the difference between being really clear on your problem versus getting distracted by how cool the tech is in a funky app or a nice interface or a fantastic dashboard. And really defining the problem and the group of people whose problem you are solving before you get into any evaluation process.